Okay, good morning, everybody. Bill Lester here with University of Florida's Hernando County Extension Office. And today, you can tell that I am here at the office. And joining me today is my regular co-host, Lily Browning, who is Hernando County's Florida-Friendly Landscape Coordinator. Did I get that correct this time?
Program coordinator, but you had
Program coordinator. I'm getting closer.
You've had it mostly correct, yes.
You have a long title and a long email address, I think. So.
Sorry, so, I can't control either one of those things.
That's fine. That's fine. I deal with both. So good morning, everybody. As we have people filter in and start tuning in, if you have any lawn and garden questions, please feel free to ask. Buddy's here this morning. Good morning, Buddy, from up there in the Panhandle, up north of us. And
Morning,
my guess
Buddy.
is we will have viewers from south of us also, and everywhere in between. Maybe even Green Bay,
Wisconsin, yes.
Wisconsin. Okay, that's pretty far north.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat or comments, depending on how you're watching us. Now, these clinics are broadcast live on our Facebook page, our Facebook gardening group, and also my YouTube page. And then they are saved to all those Facebook sites and as a YouTube video. So if you have to leave halfway through and you want to catch the second half or you missed it, they're always recorded. You can always go back and watch them afterwards. And for anybody who is into podcasts, let me put this up. They are saved as podcasts also. I think I'm about 2 or 3 weeks behind on posting the podcast because I've been kind of busy. But all the previous episodes are all there. So if you go to anchor.fm/William-J-Lester, that's me, you'll find all the podcasts and you can listen to all the past ones.
You're just like me. Your assistant is behind.
Yeah. I wish I had an assistant.
Me too. Yeah, exactly. We
maybe
all
one
are
day.
assistants. Yes. Good morning from Largo. Good morning from Coconut Creek.
Boy, yeah. We have a lot of people watching us and listening from south of us.
Yes.
Which is great. And fortunately, I kind of sort of know about growing conditions down there, what you can and cannot grow. A little bit different from here in Hernando County.
I would always, like you have, encourage people to check with their local county extension office as well.
Yes. If you live in Florida, every county in Florida, and there's 67 counties, has an extension office. Some of them have 30 people that work there. Some of them, Dixie County has 2 people that work there. Very small office. But you have an extension office that you can contact, and they can give you advice. They can help identify problems. They can help point you in the right direction. Whether you have a lawn problem or you're trying to grow tropical fruit or whatever you might be growing, they can tell you, yeah, that'll grow well here. Or if you just moved here from up north and you say, I want to grow apples down in Coconut Creek, they're going to say, no, they're not going to grow here. Or they won't grow well. So they can help you from making costly mistakes also, and they can help you out. We can help you out here, but please feel free to make use of your local county's extension office.
Pond apples.
Pond apples. What are pond apples?
I don't know. Are they gopher apples? Maybe.
Could be. See, that's the problem with common names. What do they call avocados? Gator apples or gator pears, I think?
They're kind of shaped like pears.
They are. Yeah, I think they're a common name for them as gator pears.
Okay.
So we're more than happy to.
Sometimes called swamp apples. This is South Florida speak that I'm not all that familiar with.
Yeah, the problem is that Well, I know that not everybody on here is from Florida, but if you find yourself in Florida right now, you're in Florida. You're no longer in New York or New Jersey or Wisconsin or Minnesota or whatever. And many of the things that grow well up there, apples like traditional apples, Gala apples and Red Delicious, Gold Delicious, pears, a lot of the varieties of peaches, plums, and nectarines. And you can grow, there's varieties of peaches that are bred to grow and do well in Ohio. And Ohio gets pretty darn cold. It's well north of here. None of those things is going to do well in Florida.
There are varieties that have low chill hours, but as we have discussed before, like for peaches, if you grow peaches, I wouldn't grow them in Coconut Creek. But if you try them in Hernando County,
a little too far south. Hernando County, there are varieties of peaches that do well here.
Because you have to have some chilling hours. But that peach tree, it has about a 10-year lifespan. It's really about it.
So let's say you moved here from Ohio and you had a peach tree and a Red Delicious apple tree that your great-grandfather planted, and every year you get bushels of apples and you have your whole life. Number one, you really won't be able to grow apples anywhere here. Buddy can up in the Panhandle. So northern edge of Florida, kind of, sort of. Coconut Creek, no, you're not going to be able to grow apples and actually get them. And even if you could, that tree's not going to last for many, 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 many years. It's going to have a short lifespan.
You're going to have to make friends with the people who bought your place with your grandfather's trees and harvest from them.
But you're in Florida now, so if you live in Coconut Creek, you're not going to try to grow apples. You're going to be planting avocados. You're going to plant lychees. You're going to plant logans. You're going to plant all the mangoes, and there's a bunch of different varieties of mangoes. There's tons of great fruits that you can plant and grow down in Coconut Creek. It's just not the same as Ohio.
When this is over, I'm going to look up pond apples.
I am too, yeah. But yeah, Buddy actually does grow Anna apples, which is
are those the Israeli?
Chill. But he lives up in the Panhandle.
Yes.
So here in Hernando County, we caution people, and there are a few people that grow apples and actually get them, but very few. Most people just grow disappointment.
Those Anna apples, are those the Israeli apples?
That's one of them.
Yeah, and that's what I always encourage or, say to people. Israeli apples, we may have similar temperatures, but we are not an arid place. We're in the desert like Israel. So, our humidity can take a toll on those type of plants as well.
Yeah, many times what kills plants that thrive south of here, tropical things, is the cold weather that we get for a little bit during the winter. But all those temperate things, the things that grew well up north, what kills them is our long, hot, steamy, humid, rainy summers and all the diseases that we have here.
It can be just as hot up north, but not for as long, and not the long extended rainy season. So,
yes, ours here for a couple months, it's very hot during the day and warm at night, and that's
therein lie the difference as well too. It may be 95 in Ohio, for 3 weeks, even a month, whatever, but you're still getting down in the 60s at least at night. The other night I was watching the news, it was 10 o'clock, it was 86 degrees.
Sounds beautiful.
It's going to be October before we get below 70 at night.
Yeah, and then it'll feel freezing cold. I'll walk outside one morning. Oh my God, I didn't have my coat. That first chilly morning, I always feel like I'm going to die. And then I look at the temperature, and it's probably like 68.
Yes. Bill's always cold when it gets very, very nice. And his wife and I are melters in the heat. So we don't last very long in the heat. We live in the wrong place, I think.
Yeah, and then we have a husky that during the winter when it gets below freezing, I'll put him out in the morning. It'll be like 30 degrees outside. He's like, oh, I'm going to lay on the concrete sidewalk. I just want to stay out here and go back to sleep.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And he's fine with it. So personal preference, I guess.
Oh, my daughter in Pennsylvania, who has a husky, cannot bring her in out of the snow. I mean, it takes
Ours would love that.
Yes.
So Debbie asks, do you have suggestions for erosion control on freshly excavated ponds? And I could think of one that would probably work very well.
Turf?
No, well, of course, turf grass does work very well to prevent erosion, especially on a slope or a hill. They use that alongside of the highways and everywhere else to stop, primarily to stop erosion. So you could use turf grass. If you wanted something else, muley grass is a very good choice because, number one, it's a native decorative bunching grass. Number two, those bunching or clumping grasses get very deep root systems. They do a very good job of holding the soil intact and keeping it in place. Number three, they are on the list of plants that do well in rain gardens. So they grow very, very well where it's high and dry or where it's really wet.
And it's easy to find muley grass too, in a even in a big box store. Now, if you're trying to do a whole pond, you're probably looking for a wholesale situation, but muley grass is easily propagated, easily found in any of the nurseries. That is a good idea. Any of the bunch grasses, really. Purple love grass would be a smaller, grass to put there. Not sure if wiregrass wants to go and grow in kind of a wet area.
I don't know. In Fakahatchee grass, I'm not sure how well it does in the wet area.
It likes it wet.
But it's an even larger bunch grass that does a very good job of holding things.
And you could mix those grasses together in a nice design along the water's edge as well.
And then something they brought here for erosion control that works really, really well is Kogan grass.
No, what? No, do not listen to Bill. We're going to shut this down.
That is a very, very bad invasive plant that will spread all over the place. You don't want to introduce Kogan grass to your property. But one thing that it does really well is stabilizes banks.
Well, yeah, so did kudzu, Bill. Let's not.
Kudzu will do it too.
Yeah. Do not listen to
potato.
Air
potato tolerates a wide variety of growing conditions, but we don't recommend growing that either.
Yes, please. Make it clear in case people don't understand your sarcasm.
Okay, we have another question here from Joan. We have landscapers in our backyard at the moment, I guess, and they cleared out or trimmed a lot of overgrown plants like Bougainvillea. That can happen. Bougainvillea, if you put it in a good spot and it's a happy Bougainvillea, it can grow like a big weed. And it really stinks having to trim them because they have big thorns. So they trimmed out that. I've seen only a fraction of the dozens of butterflies I used to see. I've added giant milkweed and tickweed to the passion flower plants I already had, but no luck so far.
They'll come. They will come. Sometimes it takes a while. And with what you planted, it's probably going to attract way more than the Bougainvillea even did. It was there was a whole disruption there. So they're probably, they're not going to respond well to everything that, they just figured this place was destroyed. So it's going to take a while for that critter network to pass the word of like, hey, there's a great buffet over here. But it'll happen. If you feed them, they will come. Yeah,
and you have milkweed and you have passion flower or passion vine there. Both of those are host plants for caterpillars. So once the butterflies find them, they're going to lay eggs on those plants. The caterpillars are going to eat them up. So just tolerate that and be happy that caterpillars are eating your plants because they're the ones that are going to turn into butterflies that hang around your yard for the remainder of summer. So
and some firebush where you had the Bougainvillea. and that'll also bring them.
Firebush is a butterfly and pollinator and bee and even hummingbird magnet. We have a huge one here in front of our office around the corner of the building. And by this time of year, they get completely overgrown and large, covered with red flowers. And you can walk out there and I don't know how many different insects you might catch at one time, probably 50 different species all at one time. And all the butterflies in our neighborhood are flocking to it. So firebush, very, very good choice. Uh-oh.
We're being caught.
Be careful we get everything correct.
Yeah.
And BJ says, would perennial peanut work to stabilize soil?
Sure.
Yes, perennial peanut's another really good ground cover. It likes sunny, full sun locations. Very tough. They use that in roadside medians, and growing anything in the middle of a road is a tough place to plant something. So perennial peanut would work great to hold that bank in place too.
It'll freeze though, so depending where you are, it'll look kind of ugly part of the year. Sunshine.
Yeah, it dies back for a bit in the winter. It turns brown and goes away, but it comes back in the spring.
Sunshine mimosa would be another one. BJ's like me. She phrases things in questions that she knows the answer to.
It's like Jeopardy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, Debbie said, thanks. We put in some bald cypress. No non-natives, please and thank you. I'll shop for some muley and fakahatchee.
Okay.
That's great. Bald cypress is a native tree. Muley grass and fakahatchee grass are both native to Florida. Bunch of plump grasses.
Yeah. Purple lovegrass, Elliott grass, wiregrass. Those will be smaller versions if you want to like make rows of fakahatchee. It would be bigger. Muley grass would be more medium, and then some of the smaller bunch grasses.
Exactly, and depending on exactly how your pond is shaped, how large it is, how much bank you're dealing with, you can make up a list of all those different things and kind of pick and choose and lay it out to your liking, everything from small to large,
and
different color flowers, different seasons of flowering.
Sunshine mimosa is a native ground cover. Also, this is not something you usually have to buy, but maybe it is available. What am I going to say here, Bill? Your turkey, tangle.
Turkey, tangle, either fog or frog. I like frog fruit better. Yeah,
I mean, get those bunch grasses, but place that around, and it'll start to spread. And butterflies will come like crazy.
I have a ton of that in my yard, and I have no idea how it got there. I didn't put it there.
No.
We have some in front of the office as a component of our lawn here at the office. It's out there. We didn't put it there. It came all on its own.
The grand gardener of them all put them there.
Exactly. They get around somehow on their own.
That's great.
So Debbie has some twin flower and Dune Sunflower.
Put the Dune Sunflower furthest away from the water. It doesn't like to be wet at all. So you can put that around the drier edge.
And she does have frog fruit or fog fruit, however you want to say it, as well, but it's not stopping the erosion right now.
It'll take a while to get those grasses to get those deep roots in there.
Yeah, it does get thicker over time. It gets taller over time. Mine is a component of my lawn, so obviously when I have to cut the grass, it gets cut also. If I left it, it would get a little bit taller. It should thicken up over time.
Right, but for now, yeah, that muley grass is probably the best thing to get in there first to start those roots. Yeah.
Because they do that in South and Central America. They use the bunching grasses, and there's other ones that grow there that have really deep roots, and they do a really good job of anchoring themselves and preventing soil from washing down a hillside if you dot a lot of it in there.
my Dune Sunflower is doing what it does every August, is starting to get really black along the stems and stuff because it just hates all this rain. So that, it prefers it as dry. Hence
Yeah.
its name, Dune Sunflower. So.
Okay. I have some pictures that somebody sent me the other day. Let me go ahead and pull this up. And this is from a lady who had a problem with her crepe myrtle. And she sent me some pictures of what was happening to the trunk. And she had already looked online to kind of figure out what the problem was. And she was pretty much correct with the identification, but didn't necessarily understand what was going on or what might have attracted it. So she has a number of very large, very old crepe myrtles on her property, and she doesn't prune them. So the white ones, the Natchez, they can get really, really large. And she says every year they get huge, they flower, they look great. One of them, it was growing in a spot that was, I guess, a little bit lower, heavier soil, but it's a wetter spot. So the soil it's growing in has been staying wet a lot recently with all the rains we've been getting. And she noticed that something was drilling holes into the trunk and leaving these little, what looked like a pencil sticking out of it of sawdust. And I thought, oh, I know exactly what that is. That's the telltale sign of an ambrosia beetle drilling into the trunk of a tree or a plant. So here in Florida, we have something called ambrosia beetles. We have invasive ones, we have native ones. Most plants and trees that grow here have at least one or more ambrosia beetles that will feed on them. They're only a problem if your tree or your plant becomes stressed. And then what they do is these ambrosia beetles can sense the tree. The crepe myrtle in this picture is stressed. And what they do, let me move here because there's a couple pictures. They come in and the adults drill into the tree. And they push out the sawdust that they create as they drill inside. They lay their eggs inside, and then they bring with them a little bit of fungi. They actually picture a chipmunk. In their mouth, there's a specialized compartment where they store some fungal spores. So they drill into your crepe myrtle and they plant a fungus in there. And you're thinking, well, why in the heck would they do that? Why would anybody come and damage my tree and put a fungus inside of it?
Because it makes nice soft wood then.
Yes, they plant it because that is what the baby beetles eat. So they are tiny little farmers starting a fungus farm inside of your tree. The problem with all this is that fungus is going to grow and spread, plug up the plumbing inside of your tree so water and nutrients the water can't go up and nutrients can't go up and down in the tree. And what usually happens to the tree is it will die very quickly, and the whole thing, from top to bottom, all the leaves turn brown, and they hang, but they don't fall off right away. They'll fall off eventually in a few weeks, but for a while they hang on there. I had somebody, they had me come out and look at, they had a red maple or a red oak tree in their front yard. And red oak trees can get very, very large. And this thing was huge. It was twice as tall as their house. And I was pulling onto their street. I looked down the street and I could see it a block away. Huge tree, completely brown from top to bottom. Every leaf was still on there, except when I got there, there was maybe 5 leaves on the ground. All the rest of the leaves were on the tree, totally brown and hanging totally dead. I looked around the trunk down near the base, sawdust all over the place. I thought, you have ambrosia beetles. They came in. They saw the tree was stressed for some reason. I think they had got some plumbing done or a new drain field. Something happened that really stressed the tree out. And the ambrosia beetles came, drilled holes, made sawdust, laid eggs, baby beetles, fungus farming, plugged everything up, and the tree unfortunately died very quickly. If it gets to the point where your tree, all the leaves turn brown and they're hanging,
That's
and
a
you see
very bad
sawdust
sign.
down near ground level,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's too late at that point.
You're better off if your tree sheds all its leaves, because then the tree is trying to save energy, to save itself. If it didn't shed its leaves and the leaves just died there, it means the tree was taken by surprise
Yes.
and couldn't try to save itself.
Yes, what happened, and people always want to find out, well, what can I spray? What can I do to kill the beetles and get rid of them? It's too late. The beetles have done what the beetles did, and controlling them at that point doesn't do you any good. The damage is done, and under most circumstances, the tree will die. Crepe myrtles can handle this sometimes. They will recover or they won't die. So at this point, patience is your friend. You need to wait and see a little bit. If it's dead, you'll know pretty quickly that it's completely dead and there's no bringing it back.
And if it's that old, I mean, it's lived a good life too. Unfortunately, we tend to think trees live forever. We were just discussing that, but
Yeah,
everything has a lifespan.
and it's very important that you plant, whether it's a tree or crepe myrtle or shrubs, in the correct spot. If you plant something in too wet of a spot, that's going to cause problems, either root rot or it's going to become very attractive to beetles. If it's something like swamp milkweed and you plant it in a high, dry Spring Hill backyard, might not do well, not wet enough. So you need to be very careful where you're putting things to make sure it's either appropriate wetness or appropriate dryness.
Cypress tree might be a nice replacement there.
No, that would be a very good choice.
Yeah.
And cypress trees are good because they'll grow where it's pretty dry. It doesn't have to be wet.
Mm-hmm.
But if it is wet, they're very happy. If worse comes to worse and you flood temporarily, doesn't bother them.
Mm-hmm.
If you flood, like you get a 20-year or 50-year or 100-year flood, and your oak trees and pine trees sit in standing water for a couple days, they will die, but it will take 1 to 3 years for it to happen.
By that time, you forgot about the
Yeah.
flood, and you're thinking it's something recent that happened to the tree.
Everybody says, it looked great last week, and I came home from work yesterday, and all of a sudden it was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to explain, well, no, what happened 3 years ago. It's just trees go on a really slow calendar schedule. It takes a long time for the roots to get damaged bit by bit and get in worse and worse shape. Gets to the point where during the summer, very hot, sunny, tree has high water demands, and all of a sudden those roots just can't pull enough water up, so the tree starts to die from the top, works its way down, and it's something that happened 3 years earlier, and you can't undo it at that point.
Trees have a different time frame than we do, and they don't tell you they're sick until they're dead, pretty much.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yes.
So it happens, and unfortunately, sometimes when it gets to the point where you notice there's anything wrong at all, it's already too late.
Mm-hmm.
Other times it may be something that you can control or undo or reverse, and if that's the case, we can find out. Either we know, or we know folks that we can send the question to. I just posted a tree question last night on the, Southern Tree Network that you're a member of also?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I got an answer. I even got an offer to test the leaves for bacterial leaf scorch. So I need to contact him and get them sent off.
Pretty cool.
So,
yeah.
I'm not a tree expert, but
Right.
fortunately I know a bunch of them. So,
And it's good, Facebook groups or any social media groups are a hit and a miss. Like this one is usually, it has people on it who know what they're, who are experts in the field.
yes.
You got to be careful just putting questions out there to any old group, because you could end up with who knows what kind of answers. Huh?
Boy, and they give some goofy advice too, I tell you what. But this other group was started by University of Florida researchers that work with different components of trees, tree growth, bark beetles, everything else. The head plant pathologist with Florida Forestry is one of the admins. A lot of other people with extension are on there. People from around the country are on there.
So probably,
The head,
yeah, the
the chief
administrators.
arborist in Austin, Texas, it's some city in Texas,
Yeah.
is on there, and he'll answer your questions. So you're getting good advice from those folks.
And probably the administrators, if some random person puts something way far out there, they just delete that or hide that comment so it doesn't, confuse people. So.
Yeah, they'll never start with recommending neem oil and mothballs. So neither of which is normally very good advice.
Yeah.
Mothballs are only good if you're storing clothes in a closet and you have moths in them. Anything else, keep them in the package. Don't even open that package.
It's illegal, for one thing. If you use them, as a poison for gophers or something like that, they're not labeled for that. And poisoning animals like that is illegal. So.
And if you go out in your yard and you use something like mothballs or anything else dangerous, because you're violating the label rules, number one, you're breaking the law. Number two, if anybody gets injured or hurt, somebody's children, a neighbor, anything like that, you are fully 100% liable for it. And that's not a good place to be in. And then three, when you do those kind of things, you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. If your issue is you have a problem with snakes, there's other successful things that you can do or ways of looking at things other than scattering mothballs that will solve your problem. For neem oil, a lot of times people will have an insect problem, maybe not even an insect problem. You need to start with properly identifying what insect are you talking about.
Right.
Number two, for everything, there's an appropriate, safe, many times organic or fairly natural control that you can start with that's going to be effective. Sometimes it's neem oil. It's not always neem oil. So you can't just use neem oil for everything. And
on the other end of the spectrum, don't use 7 for everything.
Yeah, don't go digging through the shed and find the bottle of good stuff that was banned 20 years ago that your grandfather left behind. Don't be using that.
No.
It was banned for a reason.
Yes. We have a question from Carol Ann there.
Yes, we do. So Carol Ann says, I've gathered seeds from annuals and she's drying them out. How do I know when I can plant them again? Does it depend on the type of annual? Lily? Yes?
I'm not all that sure of how to do that. If BJ's still here, she might have some ideas. I know a lot of your gardeners know about drying the seeds out, and some of them need to be scarified either in the refrigerator or just by letting them be wet. Some, need dried out. It depends on the annuals, and I'm not sure if you got the annuals from a big box store. I'm not sure if those seeds are viable. It depends on how hybridized,
The seed, normally the seeds are viable, and it really depends on the exact plant. But for an awful lot of annuals, things like marigolds and other things that might flower in your flower beds, you could definitely try saving the seeds. So let's say if it's a variety of marigold that's bred and a hybrid variety, when you plant the seeds, you're going to get marigolds, but chances are they're not going to be the exact same as what you got them from.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be some kind of marigold, and it may be a lot of fun and interesting to experiment and see what comes up and see what kind of marigold you get. Maybe you're going to like that marigold better than the one that it came from. Native plants is great to save the dried flower heads and seeds from them. Here we have Dune Sunflower out front. We have a lot of other native flowering plants. And you can, after the flower is dead and dried, you can cut it off and save it and dry the seeds and plant them. That's a really good way to get more plants for free.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they are completely dried out, you can plant them. But you need to think, do I really want to be planting this at this time of year?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You need to pay attention to the time of year. And UF does have a publication about annuals for Florida, and that would tell you when, there's a chart that tells you when to plant seeds, when to plant transplants. So you could look that up to know when to plant the seeds. The seed will stay, viable for a while. So then you can start to plant it in, little containers or whatever at the appropriate time of year for the annual.
Yeah, I've done that with basil. When the basil goes to flower and seed, I got a whole bag full of basil seeds. I've saved dill seeds before, because dill, when it gets really big, flowers, and you get a million seeds off it. It seems like they all sprout too. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to save money on having to buy new seeds. But I wouldn't plant basil until the next time it's appropriate to plant it, in the spring. And dill, I would plant in the fall, because it grows during the winter. So you need to, once you get the seed, just keep it dry, keep it cool. I keep ours in a bedroom closet in the spare bedroom. That's a good spot for it. You can keep it in the refrigerator, but you don't necessarily have to.
And don't you reuse spice bottles and stuff to keep them in?
Sure, any kind of small container you could store them in, spice bottles, things like that.
Mark them.
Yeah, mark them. Otherwise, you end up with mystery seeds, and that's.
Isn't it better like in a container rather than? They'll do okay in plastic baggies, but I would think, you want to have them in a drier situation than that.
Yeah, generally paper bag works well.
Okay.
Paper bag will breathe and help keep them dry. But Carol Ann says some are from Bach Tower, some are from Lowe's, and it's going to be fun.
We don't know what.
Sure. Give it a shot. The worst that's going to happen is they're not going to come up. The best that's going to happen is you're going to get some kind of free plants, free flowers. Like I said, marigold seeds will turn into a marigold. I can't tell you what color, shape, or size is going to be, but a lot of times you may find something that you like even better. Save the seeds from it and keep replanting it. And after you do that a few times, you'll get relatively pure seeds. But there's always that genetic roll of the dice and the outlier seeds that are thrown in there sometimes. Mm-hmm. People will sometimes plant watermelon seeds they've even bought from the store, and one plant will come up to be citron. And citron's like this bigger than a softball, but smaller than a basketball, hard as a rock, watermelon-looking thing, which is a watermelon relative. Mm-hmm. And you can pickle it. It's never going to turn red and tasty like a watermelon. So it's going to be kind of hard and greenish, but you can pickle them. People did that 100 years ago. So watch out for that genetic diversity. It'll surprise you sometimes. And yeah, Carol Ann, look online. Look up University of Florida annuals
for Florida.
Annuals for Florida. And that's
that
very,
used to
very
be a
good
publication. Whether that still exists as a PDF publication, I'm not sure. But it'll take you to where it says Ask IFAS. And you can either read about it kind of like in blog form. And if the publication, if they haven't taken it down, because sometimes they do for whatever reason, they'll show you, you can click here and read the publication as well.
And Lee just takes zinnia seeds and she throws them back in the garden and they come up whenever they want to come up. That's fine too, because zinnias are something that's going to grow most of the year here. And Lee lives down in South Florida, so they probably grow pretty much year round down there.
I have a story about that in my front bed, which is getting more and more full of wildflowers. I was going to say wild. Wild.
I'm sure that's not weeds?
There are plenty of weeds too. But anyway, I was watching these flowers come up, and I was kind of embarrassed when the flowers came on, just with myself, because I'm like, what are you? What are you? And then when they flowered, zinnias. I don't remember putting zinnias there. But I do know that occasionally someone who shall remain Dr. Lester throws these expired seeds at me. And one of the packages probably I just threw out there. This is the only thing that's ever come up from doing that. And they're very happy looking zinnias. So
that's great. Yeah. Zinnias are very easy to grow. They can freeze. So if you live Central Florida north, you don't want to be planting them or trying to grow them in the dead of winter. But most of the rest of the year, they're going to grow just fine.
And right now I have tuberosa milkweed getting all fuzzy and going to seed, and I'm just letting it grow because I could collect it at this point, but I'm trying to fill in that particular flower bed in the back. So the gaillardia and the milkweed, I'm letting it do its thing and spread itself. So.
Yeah, another good one for reseeding and spreading itself is salvias, especially the red tropical salvia. Every little flower makes seeds, and if you have one plant, over time, you will end up eventually with 1 million teeny tiny little plants coming up, which is great because that one plant will turn into basically a little group or a little patch. You could dig up the little seedlings, spread them around. Great way to save money also.
But that is not as likely to happen if you have heavy mulch, big chunky mulch. So you need to, let those seeds get on some bare dirt.
See, Lily, the reason is Lee has a magic hand with plants. Her garden is magnificent. So
there are some who have that. And then there's, Bill and I always tell people, BJ probably does too, the legend of the shoemaker whose children didn't have any shoes.
Yeah.
We try, but we don't have, because we're doing this all day. I always say when I retire, I'm going to have the most magnificent garden. We'll see.
Drought tolerance is critical in my landscape because I never get around to watering anything really.
I should have showed you the picture I took last night of the radar of the rain, because I always swear there's a donut hole around my neighborhood, my street, where it doesn't rain, and I had the radar to prove that with my little house. I blew it up. I mean, it was at the catty corner neighbor's house, not at mine. So I was hand watering with a hose some of my flower beds. I don't water my turf at all.
No. My turf has to get by on its own. This spring, when it got really dry for a long time, it got really dry and crispy and tan. When it started raining, oh my gosh, it came back so quickly, like overnight, boom. And the Bahia component of my yard looks unusually good this summer for some reason.
Yes, that is mine. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think I had like a 98% Bahia lawn, and I really don't. So we need to start wrapping it up here, I guess, for today. So if you need to contact our office, here is the phone number. And here is my nice, short, easy to remember email address.
Yes, and Carol Ann, if you email him, he can probably, him or me, can find information about saving seeds and stuff to send you as well, if we didn't, get your questions. And I think we talked it out and got some good answers, but.
Here's Lily's email. She'd be happy to help look up that information. It's very easy to find. And it's fun to do also. I definitely encourage people to save seeds and give it a try. It just takes practice. And for a lot of plants, it's really simple and easy to do.
There's my very long email. Now, what if they spelled out Browning? Then you would really have something to complain about.
Yeah. It's easier than the other version of it.
You could say Lillian Browning at Hernando County, then take you all day to write it. No, thank you.
Okay, to everybody, you are so very welcome. Sean, good morning. How are you doing?
Sean has plenty of knowledge himself, too.
And this is a great forum because I get emails and answer questions on the phone, and people come in the office and I answer questions all day long.
That's how you learn, is by answering questions.
Exactly, but it's so much easier and better if I can take that one question and answer it to a whole bunch of people instead of having to answer the exact same thing to each person individually. So this is a really great format for answering your specific questions, and you can learn from other people's questions. Problems.
And that right there is the sign of a great master gardener. You never finished learning.
And Sean, if you are craving more, we will be back again next Thursday at 10 a.m.
Yeah, and by the way, Sean, I have a project for you in mind, possibly in October. I spoke to Alice about it, but I'll get to you. I'll just let you wonder right now.
Okay, guys, with that, unless we have a very, very, very quick last-minute question here, I think we're going to wrap it up for the day. And like I said, Lily and I are planning on being back again next Thursday at 10 a.m. I should probably try to get a special guest, somebody to join us next week. Somebody to...
Maybe BJ.
No, we need to have BJ back on. It's definitely time for BJ. I'll shoot her an email if she's
There
not
still
listening. So you can expect that email.
Yes.
And we'll have her back on.
And next Wednesday, I have a class. If you follow my Facebook page, you can find the Zoom link to it or email me and ask. Diverse lawn areas.
I have one of those.
Yeah. Breaking monotonous monocultures. Kind of a long name there. And I'm going to be doing it with the me in Pasco County, the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program Coordinator, Frank Caldo. He's really smart. So his idea of what I was, with that title is to talk about for people in deed restricted communities, how they can bring more diversity into their yards. My idea was more like those of us, who have more freedom with their lawns to allow the weeds and stuff to be in there. So we're going to kind of cover both. I'll do one, he'll do the other. I think it'll be a pretty cool class to watch. And if you can't make it, all my classes are on Hernando County Government YouTube. Look that up, subscribe to it. It'll tell you then every time I have a new class on there. And Bill has some classes on there as well.
Yeah, and let me know if you want me to take pictures or shoot video of my diverse lawn area. I have a lot of diversity going on.
Me too.
In my lawn.
Yes. Oh, and I did take a picture of, we bought the lot next to us, and my husband has, he's just clearing out the underbrush and a few, little trees and things like that. So just in the small area that he has cleared out, and there was a rut there, and we did have a pile of sand, so we got it smoothed out. So let's say last June, nothing but bare dirt, right? We haven't put anything, not one thing there, and it looks like it's covered in a lawn. It's covered in something green that looks like a lawn, and we didn't do a thing to it, just let the sun get there.
Yeah, bare dirt in Central Florida does not stay bare for long. Something is going to pop up and grow there.
And it's actually pretty attractive. He mows it. Looks fine. Yeah.
It's all good. Doesn't have to be pure St. Augustine. I'm not going to spend time and money and energy doing that. I'd rather go fishing or camping or something. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody. We really appreciate it, like always. And please be sure to tune in again next week, next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. We'll be back here on...
It'll be September by then already. Yeah.
Yes, it will be. Getting close to fall. It won't feel like fall, but it'll be.
A good 6 weeks away for us here in Florida.
Okay. Thanks again, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye.